Before we get started with Julie's incredible presentation, I wanted to just make a few announcements. The first one, I'd like to invite Jen to come up. We are still looking for somebody to help with Alaska Wild. Jen will be stepping down next year, and right now she has us booked through 2025. But if we can't get some volunteers to help, we've turned this into a team effort. It's not going to be just one person taking over Alaska Wild. And Jen has done an amazing job to streamline and make it easy. And oh, where's Ken? Ken is helping us with some lessons on how to run Alaska Wild to make it super easy for people. But if we can't get some people to help and volunteer for this show, then this show will end as of 2025 because we just need volunteers. So if you're interested, please see one of us. Could you board members raise your hands? You can talk to any of these board members to just say, yeah, I'd be willing to help. Just let me know what I need to do. That would be fantastic. The second thing I have is on June 15th, I belong to an organization called Girls Who Click. And it is a nationwide organization that a photographer by the name of Susie Esterhaus created to introduce photography to young women and how to get into the field of photography because it has been a man's sport for a long time. And I've been a mentor for the last 3 years with this organization. I actually took my mentee to Brazil last year. And while we were there was 7 women and my husband. And we had Art Wolf on our boat, and he decided to spend some time with Beth talking to her about nature photography. And he said, I don't know why you're concerned about women breaking into the field. You're sitting here with 7 wildlife women photographers. So we've come a long way, ladies. But they have asked me to do a workshop on the 15th of June, which also is the North American Nature Photography Association's National Nature Photo Day. So if you want to go out and shoot that day, that's a big deal. And it will be at the Eagle River Nature Center from 9 to 4. And we're going to take 10 students. Carl with Alaska Photo Tracks has graciously offered his van to take the girls out. And we are going to teach them about nature photography, about conservation photography, about citizens science and how to submit your photos for that. And just make a great day of it. I am still looking for some volunteers. So if anybody is interested in that project, you can contact me. Bear Paw photo contest is coming up. Let me see. Oh, is that a Girls Who Click right there that I see that might want to join our group? I think we might have to sign her up right here now. Maybe not. So does anybody know what the dates for the Bear Paw Festival is?
It's in July.
It's in July, but to enter the photo contest for Bear Paw is at the yeah, it closes on the 31st of May. Check your e-news because we have a link to get into that website and it'll give you all the details. Hi, John. And Gail, did you want to make an announcement about Rarefied? Oh, Carl, yes.
July 10th through 13th is Bear Paw Festival. July
10th through the 13th. And Gail's going to talk to us a little bit about Rarefied Light. And then I'm going to have Jen come up and talk about Alaska Wild.
I'm sorry, I felt okay, so Rarefied Light is currently open for submissions. If you don't know what it is, it's a fine arts juried photo show. So that call closes on June 4th. We also have a workshop. I don't remember what the dates are, but it's on alaskaphotocenter.org website. And it is on the how to break into fine art photography and what clients are looking for in fine art photography. So I think it's going to be a good workshop. So if you care to learn about fine art photography, then there you go.
Any questions about any of the things that I just mentioned? Okay, now that we have some girls here, I'm just going to reiterate that real quick. We're doing a Girls Who Click. Are either one of you between the ages of 13 and 18? No? Okay, never mind. Okay, soon. Okay, Jen, you want to come up and talk a little bit about Alaska Wild?
Hello. So just a couple of quick announcements here. We have this year's Alaska Wild exhibition is in Talkeetna for the rest of the month. And then it goes to Homer at the Islands and Oceans. It has a new name, but anyway, still Islands and Oceans for June and July. And then we come back to Anchorage for a couple months. The schedule is on the website and in the e-news. And let's see what else. Oh, and Kathy touched on it, but Ken Bear is helping us. This year we're gonna have instructional videos on how to enter the contest and kind of summaries of the rules and different frequently asked questions and educational topics that keep coming up. So be sure in October, when the contest opens October 1st, that you
Listen,
check
Kat.
all of that information out, because we're working really hard to make it really super easy for you. And that helps us a lot, because there is a lot of aspects to take care of for behind the scenes. And even though I'm saying that, I want you to know it's very rewarding, and we met a lot of really cool people. And if you're interested ever in exhibitions, gallery, that's a great way to make connections with the venues. And anyway, there's a lot of fun aspects. So team effort. I've been doing this for 5 years by the time we get to next year. So that's why I'm ready to step down. And then also, I did touch on the contest will be October 1st to the 27th. I'm telling you that now because we don't have a meeting until October, and the contest will already be open. Jackie Kramer is our judge. I'm super excited about that. And also, just a quick thing for in the back of the room, we have this year's exhibition books for sale and previous years, so come see me. And then if anybody had images from last year's show, I have your People's Choice ballots if you want those. And last but not least, if you didn't get a door prize and you remember, let us know and we'll get you a ticket. So if you have any more questions, feel free to just reach out to me. Thanks.
Thanks, Jen. And I would like to just take a minute to thank all of the board members. If you guys don't mind scanning up for just a second. These guys have worked really hard this year to put on programs and Alaska Wild. And I just want to really thank them for all the hard work they've done this year. So come on, you guys, stand up. Thank you. All right, right on time, I think. So I have known Julie Jessen for a very, very long time. I've traveled to several of the countries that she's going to be presenting on tonight with her. I think mostly Brazil and Africa. Although I haven't been to Botswana yet, it's on my bucket list. And she is truly a passionate girl about photography as well as her cats. And I could go on and on about Julie and how wonderful she is. She's a past president of ASONP. And so take it away, Julie. Looking forward to it.
All right, I'm gonna try to get all these microphones organized. Thank you, Kathy, for that. Yeah, Kathy's known me for probably not quite 24 years. And when she said, I need a bio for you, I'm like, I'll just make something up, it's fine. So I was actually a little worried when she started with that. But thank you, everyone. Can everyone hear me in the room? Can everyone hear me on Zoom? Alan, can people hear me on Zoom? Can people hear me on Zoom? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Can everybody see the screen okay? I know this time of year, the lighting is also a little you know.
Make it as dark as we could get it.
Okay, try as dark as we could get it, so hopefully everybody can see. Well, thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you for all the Zoom folks. I had a just amazing response to my emails and Facebook posts and things for this presentation. It's something that I've been working on since November. And I'm just so excited to see so many different people from so many different aspects of my life, my husband's friends who are my friends and work friends and ASONP friends. Thank you for being here today. And thank you to ASONP, the Alaska Society of Outdoor and Nature Photographers. This organization is about education, it's about ethical wildlife photography, and it's about sharing our images with others. And I'm so thrilled to be able to be here tonight and share some of my experiences with all of you. So initially, this program, I was approached about a trip I took to Mongolia last July to photograph the manul or the Pallas cats. And I said, oh, 45 minutes on a single cat, that would be just really kind of boring, I thought. And then somebody, I think it was Carl or somebody, said, well, why don't you do all the cats you photograph? You've been all over the world. Why don't you just do a bigger program talking about all the different animals that you've seen? And so here we are. Or as I like to call this, Confessions of a Crazy Cat Lady. And all of you, Maria, if you are online from Sweden, you're there too, my friend. So this is not an MGM production. I'm not a videographer, so that has not been edited or anything, but that guy was actually calling for his brother. He was lonely. They were traveling in pairs, and the brother found a female companion, leaving this guy all alone. But anyway, he did find his brother eventually. So why cats? Why am I inspired by cats? In part, it's their grace, it's their independence, it's just their beauty. And cats are pretty much everywhere. You just have to take a look. So first I'm going to talk about what is a wildcat, because there are a lot of things that are not wildcats. But wherever there are people, there are domestic, habituated, or feral cats. These are not wildcats. But studies have shown that domestic cats came from the Middle East, from a subspecies of wildcat about 10,000 years ago. They were domesticated about 4,000 years ago. And by 3,000 years ago, they took over the world and they became gods. So meerkats, also not a wildcat, even though you would think they have, cat in their name. They're not a wildcat. They're actually more closely related to mongoose. I put these up because I took them a couple months ago, and I think they're just terribly cute, but they're not cats. Also not wildcats, there are certain things like genets and civets that look like cats, but they're actually more related to mongoose. And although they do have a lot of the same characteristics. So sometimes if you see something like this, you're like, oh, that's a cat. Nope, nope. But what we have are our basic high school family, genus, species taxonomy here. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about wildcats. There's about 45 species of wildcats in 2 different subfamilies. And Julie, what's the difference between these subfamilies? And basically, it's big cats and small cats. Probably the most familiar to people are the Pantherinae, the lion, jaguar, leopard, tiger, and snow leopard. Those are kind of your traditional big cats. And some cats are kind of like their own little things going on. The serval, the Pallas cat or manul, and puma are alone in their genus. Those are just kind of the single species within those groups. And then there's the cheetah, which some, depending on who you ask, are going to be considered their own subfamily, but science. So when I say cats are everywhere, they pretty much are. The places I will not be going are Australia and I think Greenland probably at this point for wildcats, but who knows? You never know where those wildcats will show up. Little bit of wild cat characteristics you can see up here. You can read that for yourself. But an interesting little thing that I found out when I was doing some research is that purring cats cannot roar and roaring cats cannot purr. And so if there's a distinction, that would be another way of telling your different species apart by roaring or not roaring. And sorry, dog people, if there was any doubt that cats are smarter than dogs, cats have twice the amount of neurons in their cerebral cortex than dogs, and they're also better hunters. And in part, it's because of their retractable claws. So that's one of the cat characteristics. We'll get to that, always exceptions. But cats have these retractable claws, which when they're hunting and preying and jumping, those retractable claws allow them to grip that much harder. If you have a pack of dogs or dogs hunting, their claws are not retractable. And if you look at their claws, they tend to get worn down. And they're not used as part of their hunting strategy as much. They're about the teeth. The cats are about teeth, but they're also about the claws, as anybody who has purred had a cat kneading on their lap and gotten spiked from friendly cats. I have had the most extreme pleasure, and I am just so blessed to have been able to take a wide variety of different trips over the last number of years. Wildcats, they have become a passion. They've taken me all over the world, and there's still a lot of places left to go. And I'm also very fortunate that for some of you here I've traveled with, some of you on Zoom, thank you for being my travel buddies, and I can't wait to do some more trips with you all. A little bit about gear. This is a camera photo group after all. Mostly I travel with this type of gear. I used to carry a big 500mm lens back in the day. That was great for things when they were really far away, but now I have a 100 to 500 lens that makes life so much easier. It's lighter, you get a lot more versatility out of it, and yeah, it's just a lot easier to carry through airports. A shout out to the guides. These are the people that make all the difference when you're out photographing. They are biologists, they are observers, they are spotters, they know what to listen for, they know what to smell, they just know so much. And if you sit down and talk to people and listen to what they have to say, you will just be so amazed. And I am so grateful, because I would say a good number of these images would not have been possible without these different guides. So thanks. I love this image because Norbu, who's the guy spotting there on the left, his domestic cat is actually in the way when we were looking for snow leopards. So a lot of great people that I owe a lot of thanks for. So in pursuit of cats, on a lot of my travels, and I'm sure a lot of you are like this, especially with today's cameras and you're doing these bursts, it's very easy to take 10,000 or 15,000 images per trip. I started pulling together the show in November because I was so excited to get started. And I pulled initially 700 images, and then I thought I won't subject you guys to all 700 images. So what I've done is to put together a format where I'm going to show different species. I'm going to talk about what they eat, where they live, how we photograph them, and then just a series of images set to music. And just an important note that unless I say otherwise, all these cats are wild. They are not habituated. Well, they're habituated, but they're not attracted. So they're wild cats. Some are like our bears that we photograph in McNeil or other places are used to people hanging around. So they're habituated. They're not really bothered by us being in certain areas, but they are, except for where I'm going to make a note, they are not attracted by food or other reasons. So I'm going to start with the happy accidents. These are the critters, the cats that I didn't go specifically to photograph, but just gave themselves as lovely little gifts. The serval in Africa, these critters are pretty amazing. They hunt in grasslands, and they have the longest legs by body size of any of the cat species, which really helps them when they're looking through the grasslands. And this one's in the Ngorongoro crater. When, Mom always said she has eyes in the back of her head. Well, the cats often do have eyes in the back of their head. If you notice different cat species, they'll have these white patches. And I don't know this for sure, and somebody maybe who's a biologist in the room can correct me, but having that pattern on the back of their ears also confuses prey. So cats do have eyes in the back of their head. So this is a jungle cat. This is from India. And again, this is supposed to be a very common cat in India. This is the only one I saw, but he was terribly cute, and he hangs out in the same habitat as tigers. So if you are going to photograph something somewhere, keep an eye out for whatever gifts might also present themselves. Similar for this ocelot in Brazil. We were photographing jaguars along the river, and our guide, again, amazing guides, we were just going upstream, and all of a sudden he said, there's an ocelot. And so we followed this wild ocelot for a good half hour, if not longer, as he walked along the banks. And he knew we were there. He didn't care. He was looking for whatever he could find. And then the African wildcat. Again, this is supposed to be fairly common, but this is an interesting cat because it looks very much like a domestic cat, doesn't it? Kind of, sort of. That's actually what they're threatened by. They are threatened by interbreeding with domestic cats. So the way that you can tell the wild cat is that it has longer legs and more of a reddish brown color on the back of the ears. But that's one of the threats that we may start talking about is different species interbreeding. The main events, you knew I was going to throw some puns in here, right? So while there are definitely lions, there's going to be a lot of other charismatic kitties. So for each of these next categories, again, they're going to be a little bit of biology. They're going to be listed if they're endangered or threatened by the ICUN. And a lot of them are, and a lot of the threats are from habitat loss, either from people encroaching on habitat, or now climate change is definitely an issue for some of these cats. Conflicts with domestic livestock and predation that way. And they're also, when the habitat shrinks, they're losing their natural prey. They're starting to go after livestock a lot more. And then in some cases, these cats are threatened by wildlife trade. So again, plug for the power of photography and the power of travel and tourism. When you bring money into communities for purposes of wildlife and reuse of a subject like animals on safari, say, you are really helping communities, and you are helping people understand the value of healthy habitats and healthy wildlife populations. So conservation plug there. So I'm going to start with the manule. This is going to be the smallest of my wild cats that we're going to talk about today. They're pretty tiny. I mean, 9 pounds, that's the size of my small cat at home. But they are in Central Asia. So this was in July in Mongolia last year. They eat small mammals, and these guys, talk about whack-a-mole, they were just popping up everywhere. And so you could just sit on the ground and start photographing voles and ground squirrels. The interesting thing that I found about Mongolia is you see all these white flowers, and a lot of you know I'm a macro photographer, but you see all these little white flowers here? Those are chives. And so when we were going across the steppe, the Mongolian steppe, about 80 to 90% of the vegetation were chives. And so your car would crush this, and you get this smell, and it would just be crazy. So now every time I eat chives, I'm going to think of manule. But their habitats are these rocky grasslands and these tors, which while we were photographing this time of year in July, the mother cats typically stash their kittens in these tors while they go off hunting. So the majority of images you will see here are going to be small cubs of the year, if you will, not necessarily adult manule. And spotting them is not always easy. Can you guys see a cat in this image? You see him? He's kind of hard. When you get into those grasslands, they're pretty hard to, or those rocky areas, they're pretty hard to spot. But we were photographing, we were on foot, we were on in blinds, and we were also using vehicles as kind of a mobile blind. That when we would drive up, the cats knew we were there. They would be like, okay, what's going on here? And then they would get acclimated, and then they would just go about their business. So within a half hour, they would be running and jumping. Can't turn that down. Sorry. They have a grumpy face, but they're really not that grumpy. All right. Oops. Cheetahs. Okay. So cheetahs, again, most of you probably learned in school that they're the fastest land mammal. They get to up to speeds of 60 miles an hour or so. And interestingly, they were used for hunting. In Egypt, about 1500 BC, they were trained to chase down prey. The name cheetah itself is derived from Hindi word for cheetah or spotted. And this is the one cat species. Remember, I was talking about those retractable claws? These guys do not have retractable claws. And my understanding or my guess is that because they are going so fast, they don't even have that instant to take their claws out in order to grab their prey when they're on the run. So there's probably estimated about 6,700 cheetah in the wild and about 29 subpopulations. Of course, they are vulnerable in their areas. They're going to be eating medium-sized ungulates, usually some of the faster moving ones. And their habitat varies, but they're primarily in those savannas and hilly deserts. You'll see them in Africa, but also originally in the Middle East and India as well. And as with most of the big cats, because they're big cats, we are photographing from vehicles. This is before. And after. Good meal. All right, I'm kind of jumping around globally, but I'm going up size-wise, if you're wondering why I'm going this particular order. But pumas, uh, they're also known as cougars, mountain lions, and panthers, but they are the most adaptable species in the Americas. They're also the largest of the small cats. So these guys are actually purring and not roaring. So these particular images were taken over a 2-year period in January and February in Patagonia, Chile, in a ranch adjacent to Torres del Paine National Park. And this is, again, the power of tourism and the power of photography, that the owners of this ranch were approached because there was a population of puma within the park, but of course, they don't know the boundaries. But the owners of this ranch opened it up to wildlife tourism about 8 years ago. These cats are really getting to having people around them and not bothering them. And so they just kind of go along their merry way. If you go for pumas, be prepared for wind. Patagonia is windy and it's definitely a challenge that way. So again, prey, small mammals, sheep, deer, and guanaco, which are these kind of llama, alpaca looking things. And because their habitat ranges from the very south of South America through North America, their habitat is going to definitely vary. Definitely some of the areas that we were in. And again, challenges in photographing pumas. We had the most amazing opportunity to be on foot to photograph pumas. We weren't in vehicles. We weren't trapped in our own little blinds or anything. We were on foot following these guys. So the challenge with puma photography is actually staying in front of the animal so that you're not getting butt shots all the time. So you were doing a lot of walking, you're doing a lot of fast walking, sometimes you're doing a lot of sitting, but they would approach us quite closely. We had just some amazing experiences where the cats approached us, said, okay, there you are, I hear you clicking, and off they went. Going back to Asia for these gray ghosts. They are my challenge cat, the snow leopard. I traveled to the Ladakh region of India in northwestern India 3 different times, twice in February and once in April to photograph snow leopards. And the very first time we were there, we were fortunate enough to see a mother with her 2 cubs 5 of the 7 days that we were in Ladakh, in this area. Second time I went, we got skunked. Didn't see a single snow leopard. And then the third time we went, we saw them, but they were so far away, and you'll see some images of those as well, that I have a couple hundred images that I know there's a cat in that image. I couldn't tell you where it is. There's they estimate between 4,000 and 6,000 snow leopards in the wild, but it's kind of hard to tell because they're a pretty small study size and small number of study sites. They are eating small mammals, blue sheep, argali. So again, the ungulates, they follow their prey down the mountainside in winter. So when the snow starts at the top of the mountains and the prey starts coming down, the cats follow them. So again, the best time of year to see these guys is probably in the winter, but we were at about 13,000 feet elevation, thin air. Actually, snow leopards have interesting nasal passages that helps them warm that air that they're breathing in. We did not benefit from those nasal passages, so it was very cold. And if you go, yeah, just bring a lot of warm gear. Also be prepared to sit around. We were in blinds, we were in the open, and again, our amazing guides. Again, when you have guides, it's wonderful, but there's a challenge. When they can't find anything, you're doing a lot of sitting around and a lot of goofing around. But they really do exist. I promise they do. So some of those were taken from more than a quarter mile away, obviously in very challenging light conditions. Um, I'm just so grateful that we got to see them at all. Our leopards. So how many of you have heard of the Black Panther? It's a leopard. Actually, so black panthers are actually a melanistic color of a leopard in Africa. There is actually a very famous black leopard that's being photographed by a lot of people right now named Giza. So they are there. It's kind of like our white raven in some ways. So the black leopard is our white raven. There are 9 different species of leopard. I have seen them in Africa, but also in India. They are eating ungulates and primates, and they will stick their catch up in a tree, their prey, their meal up in a tree as a cache for later. Keep it away from other predator species and other carnivores. Like all our big cats, well, not all our big cats, but for a lot of our big cat species, we were photographing from vehicles for these guys. Be careful where you sit. All right, going back to more spots. Jaguars and leopards, very similar, but different continents and areas entirely. So jaguars are in the Americas, and I've had the extreme pleasure of going to Brazil 3 different times with Kathy and others to photograph these jaguars. They're the largest cat native to the Americas, and actually their size increases as they go from north to south. So if you see a jaguar on the US-Mexico border, it is likely to be much smaller than a jaguar you might see in the Pantanal or areas further south. They are stalk and ambush hunters, and in the Pantanal area, in the region, they're actually cruising the shoreline a lot of times to look for caiman, for capybara, other critters along those lines. And because they are habitat across the Americas, obviously their habitat is going to vary. So in Brazil, the Pantanal is the world's largest wetlands complex. We would go roughly in October before the rainy season, but a lot of folks will go earlier in the year to photograph them. Temperature-wise, because it was before the rainy season, it was very hot and about 180 degrees difference. Maybe I need to count that from the snow leopards that we were photographing. Again, because they are stalking along the riverbanks, we got a lot of this. And we were photographing primarily from boats. The challenge in the Pantanal was the heat and humidity when you're photographing. There was definitely a lot of camera issues that happened on those trips, but it was totally worth it. So you saw a lot of pairs of cats there, the male and the female, and you could tell the male was so much bigger than the female. In October, it was mating season, so leaving this G-rated production, I didn't include any mating shots, but we definitely saw a lot of those. We didn't see any babies, so Kathy, we got to go back. All right, lions. The lions are fairly easy to photograph. Really, when you think about it, they sleep 20 hours a day, so you can always find them. It also makes it a little challenging to photograph because they're sleeping 20 hours a day and they're not really doing much of anything. But they are hunting using short, powerful attacks. They don't have the stamina necessarily that a cheetah or some of the other faster animals, faster cats have. So they're attacking, and they will also drink water when it's available, but primarily they're getting their moisture from their prey. And sometimes they'll even eat plants, but they're not ones that you will often see at the water holes. They also have a broad habitat tolerance, shrubby areas. Photographing from vehicles, always a smart idea with lions. That little guy is maybe 2 to 3 weeks old that we saw. And again, kudos to the guides for knowing where the mother was hiding those cubs. There were 2 different mothers and 2 different sets of cubs. Some were 2 months old, some were 2 weeks old. The guides knew where they were. It was just in this brushy area, and good luck trying to find those areas to take photos, but they know their job and they got us amazing shots. Those lions were not bothered by us. They did not stress out by having these vehicles here because they're just used to them, and so very fortunate. So here we are at our biggest wildcat, the big wildcats. When I went to photograph snow leopards, 2 of the 3 times I also went and photographed tigers. So these are in January and April, prior to the monsoon season. And the timing of tiger photography, you want to go prior to monsoon season because the water holes are shrinking and the cats and their prey are all going toward those water holes. So it's helpful when you're looking at some of these tiger parks to know when to go. The males of the tigers are 1.7 times larger than the females. So when you think of 600 pounds, they are ginormous, and you'll see a big male in here I wouldn't want to meet him on a dark night. Ungulates and wild boar are what they're feeding on, and their habitat varies. They originally ranged from Turkey to Eastern Russia, but now they are in about 6% of their historic habitat. And I want to mention a program called Project Tiger that was started in India in 1973 by Kailash Shakara. And because of his efforts and the efforts of the government at the time, there are now 55 protected tiger areas in India, and the population in India is slowly rebounding. Because they are in forested areas, you do get a lot of this. Very frustrating. Talk about challenges in photography, but they are also very popular. Think our bear jams in Denali. You also have a lot of dust and haze photographing tigers in India. I will say the only time I've ever been super uncomfortable photographing cats was in India and photographing these tigers. There was one that was super close and he was kind of going, huh? I was probably 10 feet from him in an open Jeep. And that, Steve Farino, who some of you know, was in the vehicle with me behind me, and we're just trying to get as far away as we could. And we're like, we need to move. And the guide's like, no, it's fine. Yeah, okay. Trust your guide. All right. So I'm going to wrap this up with just a few lessons I have learned from all our cats. Find shade when it's hot. Find sun when it's cold. Take time to reflect. Take naps. Lots of naps. Keep your family close. Eat everything on your plate. Oh, that might have been my mom. And asparagus. Anyway, long story. Use a faster shutter speed. Or use a slower shutter speed, depending on what you're trying to do. Panning is fun. Up your ISO. And so remember when I said that I would note when something was attracted? This is the only image of a cat that was attracted for photography purposes. This cat was being fed chicken at an area where photographers could set up their gear, and there were lights and everything. It was at night. It was interesting photography. It was not my kind of photography. The cat was a little nervous, but it ate its chicken, and I imagine as time progresses, it will get more and more comfortable, and probably other cats will get more and more comfortable with that kind of setup. But so that is ISO 10,000. This is in Mongolia, this manual at sunset, ASO 8,000, and for non-photographers, ISO helps with your light, but it also creates noise in your images. So if you really blew this up, you might see a lot of like pixels in your image. This is a cropped image, and to me, the camera gear that we have now is just so amazing when it comes to low light photography. Same with this one, ISO 12,800. So these again are the India snow leopard shots. Oh my gosh, do you see it? That's with a 500 millimeter lens. And so it was more than a quarter mile away in low light conditions. But then you crop it and you're still getting a lot of noise, and I could still play with this some more, but up your ISO, you don't have anything to lose with it. Zoom out. That again, sometimes with a fixed lens, you're getting a little too close and you are cropping things that you don't necessarily want to crop. Sometimes things are a little too close, and sometimes having a wide angle is a good idea. And sometimes you need to zoom out because this could have been a really great series, except for that damn tail, darn tail. Practice and play. And I will say this is Ray Bolson. If any of you have taken his intro photography course, he always encourages people to practice and play. And that is exactly what these kittens are doing. They are playing with each other. They are practicing. They are stalking, chasing each other. This one on the lower right is playing with guanaco fur, just like a cat would with a cat toy. He found this ball of fur and off he went. Don't be afraid to make your mark. And persevere. And I want to give a shout out to this particular cat. Her name is Blinka. Blinka is she has one eye, and she's missing part of a canine. But she is a highly successful mother. When we met her, she had 2 young cubs in 2022. That fall, she was kicked by guanaco during a hunt and badly injured her leg. And for a long time, the guides were looking for her. They didn't see her. They weren't sure if she had survived. She did actually survive. She is still not back to 100%, but her 2 cubs are now adults and off and hunting on their own. And so she, yeah, when I think of perseverance, I think of Blinka. And then my final lesson from the cats, sometimes you find gold at the end of the rainbow. So what's next for me? Well, the missing links. Really? Come on, laugh. This is all these photos are taken at my house. The one in the left by Susan Olson, she was babysitting my cats for me while I was on a cat photography trip. No, actually, I was in Illinois with my mom, but she took that outside my bedroom window. Kid you not. And the others are tracks in my driveway and then the Ring camera. So they're in Eagle River. I just haven't been able to find a good place to photograph them. I will be going to California this fall to photograph bobcats. Going to Mongolia again in winter this time for snow leopards, see if I can get my nemesis cat. And then I'm interested in Gail's trip to Borneo because I will be going to Borneo in September of next year for a whole bunch of new species, knowing it will be hot, humid, buggy, and all the things that I don't like. I will give a shout out to the tour operators who I travel with. If you are at all interested in wildcat photography, Top Photo Safaris, Cat Expeditions, Encounters Asia, and South Wild are all great companies to explore and to travel with. Shout out to them. And of course, thank you to my kitty critters at home. Kiska, Atu, and my new cat, Mac, and then my husband, you know, he's kind of cute too. If you like the music at all, and I apologize, I realize it was a little loud, but these were the musicians, and please give them some love if you search them out. And if you would like to see more images, please visit me at blueirisimages.com. Thank you.
Both amazing images.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. That was fantastic. I don't know that we have time for questions because we do have.
That's fine.
We do have member slides tonight. And if you're a member of ASONP and you haven't gotten your coupon yet for a free drawing, Julie does have a set of note cards that we're giving away tonight, as well as one of our newest books. If somebody else could take time to pass the jar around, I need to get my computer set up for member slides. So if you need to take a break, give us about 10 minutes, and then Gail's got pictures from Borneo, and we've got the Collins pictures, and hopefully we'll have time for Charles and.
You made it. Yeah, thank you.
Long also wrote wonderful. Thank you for sharing with all of us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
I did think I could chance to talk to you. Okay, sorry about that. Borneo is hard to photograph. It's a very dense jungle, especially the primary rainforest, which has never been logged. And so this photograph, I almost deleted it because it looked very underexposed and it was just dark. And when I got it into Lightroom, I'm like, well, let me just try and open up the shadows, and there you had it. So, so don't delete photos until you've opened up the shadows is the lesson there. Macaques are all over the place. This guy was right outside the dining area of one of the lodges, and he is very upset at something, and he was hissing and showing his teeth. And it turns out what he was upset about was a stuffed tiger. They moved this tiger around to keep the macaques out of the dining area. So I have my doubts that it would work, but it did. This is a tarsier. It's one of the smallest primates. And he's got, if you can see there in his little hand there, he's got a cicada. The next few pictures I had was him eating the cicada, so that was pretty cool. This is at night. I had a flash. He was pretty far away, and again, I wasn't sure how the photo was gonna come out, but I'm really happy with it. Wilson's flying frogs. Some of you might have seen my Facebook post on seeing flying frogs. Okay, so they don't really fly, they don't have wings, but they do leap pretty far and then glide. So again, this is at night. We did quite a bit of night photography there. And this is a gibbon. So gibbons go through the trees using their arms, swinging from branch to branch. So they're pretty fun to watch too. We were going to go. We got up early every day, but this one day we were getting up before breakfast, and we were going to go about an hour drive away to watch the gibbons. And we got just past the lodge, and the driver stopped the vehicle and backed up because they were right there at the lodge. So that was kind of fun. And that's it.
Well, I'm just gonna run through these real quick. These are Colin, pictures, and he's online. But I'll just run through them real quick, and then I think we still have time, Carl, for your pictures.
Can you hear me, Kathy?
All right. I'm not sure where these are. Do you know, Carl? Namibia, probably. More cats. A nice shot. Computer does not want to. This is Cuba. Iceland or the Nature Center? And that was Colin. Yay, Colin. Thank you for sharing. Okay, you have 15 minutes.
Okay, I'll be in and out in 5.
All right. All right, so wow, Colin got a shot from Wiseman that looks just like mine. All right, hey everybody. So really, these are not recent. These are from the last 2 years, and this is here to plug. I've been doing a fall and spring workshop up in Wiseman for a while now, and we talked about it at a board meeting. And I want to make this fall's trip an ASONP trip. So there's going to be some details in an upcoming news blast, and I just want to share some images from the trip. I'm offering a special reduced rate for ASONP members for the trip. I think it'd just be a lot of fun to have a bunch of ASONP people go up there together. It's a great place, and I still have met plenty of Alaskans who've never even been that far north, so this is a great opportunity. So Wiseman, as you may know, was settled a long time ago, but in its heyday, over 200 people lived there in, say, the late 1920s, early 1930s, when Bob Marshall visited there. And a lot of those historic cabins are still there today and make great photo subjects, like this U.S. Post Office cabin. But we go up there for the landscape. So the timing of this trip, unfortunately, after peak fall colors, which in this area, at least for the Arctic tundra above the tree line, is about late August. In Wiseman, it's about the week to 10 days of September. But the reason why we go up when we do now, compared to when we used to, is because there's more clear skies. So we have more of a chance of seeing this kind of stuff when we're up there, because this area is directly under the Aurora Oval. So even on a low KP night, you can still get some great stuff in Wiseman, north of Wiseman. We'll drive on a stretch of road in between Wiseman and Galbraith Lake. And during the day, we're doing some daytime photography, but also scouting for nighttime locations where we really want to visualize where we want to go. We'll also occasionally run into a variety of different wildlife. We've seen a lot of snowshoe hare up there, occasional. This year was like the spruce grouse year. We were running into grouse all over the place, which was a lot of fun. And we've seen wolves in the distance. There's tons of wolf sign in the Dietrich River Valley north of Wiseman. So I keep hoping that some year we're going to get a really, really great wolf encounter for photography. But the mountains are fantastic. They are, I think, the most amazing mountains to photograph in Alaska. Certainly the most road accessible mountains get a lot of diversity. And one of the things that we always do as part of this trip is one day we're going to have really great weather in the evening and into nightfall. And we push all the way to Galbraith Lake. And during the daytime, just kind of take our time getting up there, shoot sunset up in that area, have a bonfire, have dinner out in the field, and then just slowly make our way back to photograph the Aurora Borealis in the Brooks Range. And even though this is late September, still getting some pretty cool Milky Way displays to go with some of those milder aurora. And of course, composition is everything. And then again, we always pick some time during the trip to just have a walk around in Wiseman to just take our time to go photograph. But most of the time it is out doing the landscapes. Found a couple of great spots where we can just do a little bit of a short hike to get off the road system, get out and photograph the fantastic mountains that are near Wiseman. This here was on a night where it was like we'd scouted around, we were finding no clouds anywhere, getting back into Wiseman, like right before you get into the community of Wiseman, and boom, there's this little hole of clouds just right there. And there's crazy colors in the aurora that night. And at this time of year, well, this was actually on the return trip. We were done in Wiseman and heading back to Fairbanks and found this huge blueberry patch with this nice big fattening up bear, and you had blueberry on her lips, and there's blueberries everywhere, some of the biggest blueberries I've ever seen. So great photo opportunities with wildlife, opportunistically, but it is a landscape trip. And that's it. We'll have more details in the news blast.
Okay, so we have two prizes tonight. We're a little slim on prices because that Glenn isn't here with the box. But Julie has donated a beautiful set of cat cards. And then we also have our this year's Alaska Wild book. So I'm going to have my good friend Ray here pull a ticket out. Dun, 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 dun.
Just one.
Just one.
Oh, come on. We have 543459.
459.
459 going.
Okay, John, do you want the cards?
459.
Do you want the cards
Thank you.
or the Alaska Wild book?
Oh,
They're Julie's.
wait. Well, I didn't get one of these tonight, so I think I'll take this.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, one last one. Dun, 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 dun.
And the lucky number is 473. Last three.
Carl,
There you go.
you have Julie's cards.
Cards.
Yes.